Louis Patrone back with the Key West Lou Legal Hour. I'm enjoying the show this morning. I hope you're enjoying, you enjoy watching it as much as I am enjoying delivering it. The things that are happening are so crazy this week. The stupidity of our elected representatives, the only way to describe it. Now, an example of governmental waste. You're not going to believe it. It's almost as bad as it is as bad as the barbershop situation. The Air Force needed new cargo planes, C-27Js, whatever they are. They're big super duper cargo planes. And it turned out the Department of Defense said the Air Force wants, and the budget's approved, 21 of them we need, okay? And the House of Representatives, per their responsibility under the Constitution, provided the money to build 21 C-27J cargo planes. Well, turned out, and don't ask me why, but turned out as they were making them, they didn't need them anymore. The Air Force was not going to use C-27J cargo planes. They had already built and completed building 12 of them. They were done, 12 of them. And they had 5 in the works to be done. They were half finished, 3/4 finished. And only 4 remained to be started. Well, we don't need the planes. So where did the planes go? The planes went to a boneyard in Arizona. There's over 4,400 of United States airplanes that are not being used anymore. We store them in the deserts of Arizona because the weather, the humidity is just right, so the planes don't rust too soon and everything stays healthy if we ever need these planes again. This boneyard has become the biggest store in the world, the biggest store, the biggest warehouse for airplane parts. People come from all over the world, all different countries, to look for used parts so they can bring them back and put them in their airplanes. A business is run out of there. It's called the boneyard, because most of these planes never get recalled. When it was realized that we don't need them, 12 were finished. They went immediately to the boneyard in Arizona. They never carried a soldier or any items of material in those big cargo planes. The 5 that were almost finished were finished. That's only 17 of the 21 appropriated. The cost so far was $587 million. Not a pittance. You know, we're taking $40 billion from food stamps. We have a shutdown. Babies can't get formula. What's going on? $587 million. Well, I'll tell you why they didn't stop. When they found out, they did not stop building the planes because it was built into the contract between the United States and the manufacturer of the airplane, Boeing, whoever it was, I don't know. There is language that says, and this is congressional language put into these bills, if the money's appropriated, if the money's permitted, it must be spent. Mandated. It must be spent. So even though they knew they didn't need any more planes, they kept building the planes. $587 million of wasted money. These things are in a boneyard, you know, where the wrecked cars go. That's where they are. And finally, someone got wisdom and said, even though Congress said this, we can't do this. We look stupid. We're horses' asses. And they didn't build the last 4, but they still blew $587 million. There is a drone. We hear about drones all the time. Global Hawk drones. Whatever they look like, I don't know, but Global Hawk drones. Built into the contract with the manufacturer of the Global Hawk drones is the following language. These planes, and I quote, cannot be retired, cannot be prepared to be retired, and cannot be put in storage. Cannot be put in storage, which means whether we need the planes or not, as we go along, we can't stop making them, and we can't store them. We just got to keep producing them. Why does all this happen? This all happens because the airplane manufacturers have lobbyists. These lobbyists get $1 million+ million dollar plus fees a year, multi-million-dollar fees to the lobbyists in Washington. They influence the congressmen, especially in the House of Representatives, who want to take $40 billion out of the food stamp program and cut Social Security and Medicare. The language is provided by the lobbyist to the congressman's person who's drawing the bill for him. And our congressmen approve this language. Must, even if we're not going to use it anymore, you got to keep making it. If we appropriate the money, you must spend it. Because after all, the manufacturer has to get paid. But nobody cares about you and I, whether food stamps, Social Security, Medicare, Obamacare. Now, let me give you some more examples of waste. And you've all heard of the Heritage Foundation, probably the most conservative organization in America. Senator DeMint left the Senate and became president, CEO of the Heritage Foundation. It's the ultra-right. I would say it's the Tea Party of the United States, a member, a forum, a participant, a supporter of the Tea Party. They're that far right. But they also get upset when money is pissed away. I'll give you 3 examples they came up with recently. The National Health Institute. We've all heard of the National Health Institute and the shutdown because there were cancer tests going on and so forth, and everything had to stop. And people weren't continuing to be treated, to be tested. New applicants couldn't be taken in. How terrible. It is terrible. Not how terrible, but it is terrible. Well, the National Health Institute rented laboratory space. Must be a big lab. And then they found out they didn't need it and couldn't use it. The lease is still costing the United States government, listen to this number, $1.3 million a month, not a year, $1.3 million a month to pay for a laboratory that's not needed. Then let's talk about Congress again. Everything's Congress. House of Representatives. Congress has their own investigators to investigate the federal agencies and departments, the EPA, Education, Department of Defense, and so forth. Investigators, semi-cops. And these departments that I just mentioned, they have their own semi-cops, their own investigators to investigate Congress. Isn't that amazing? Both thieves on both sides. I got to use that word when we're talking about waste and stuff like that and what they're trying to do to the entitlement programs in America, watching each other. Well, we all know that college funding, money for college, federal programs, the loan program, is under tremendous scrutiny right now. And the interest rates keep going up. For some reason, they don't want to educate the kids in America. And if they do, they want the banks to eat big time on the interest. Doesn't not make sense to me. You're not taking care of your people when you take care of the banks. Anyhow, I'm laughing because you're going to laugh too. $55,000 in funding for college educations, loans for college educations to students to certain colleges were authorized for non-existent colleges. The investigators from Congress made up phony college names, processed some phony applications, and the Department of Education approved $55,000 worth of loans. Not a lot of money, but it's $55,000 here and $55,000 there for colleges that did not exist. And the last one is the farmers of the United States. They get subsidies every year. Subsidy means they get paid not to plant anything. They get paid not to plant whatever vegetables or fruits they were planting, to the tune of $2 billion a year. $2 billion a year. It's the Conservation Resource Program. And they keep doing that. They keep spending them, paying farmers not to grow anything to the tune of $2 billion a year. I'll be back. Stay with me.